going to talk a little bit about phase 1 clinical trial in oncology. In particular, I want to show you how this study and the way we do this study is changing, and what's are the implications of this change. So the first good news I want to give you is I think this is very important if you think what Tim has said, is that the patient participating in phase 1 clinical trial actually benefiting more. Okay, so these are two letters published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The first one in 2005. It was a retrospective analysis of phase 1 trial between 1991 and 2002. And essentially what the authors looked was what's the percentage of patients that benefit by participating to this study. And the way they measured the benefit was response rate, so radiological response rate, which is not a perfect way to measure, but it's an indirect way to assess effectiveness of a treatment in oncology. As you can see here, in that time point, more or less 5% was the response rate, which was quite low, and which was the reason why traditionally we thought that participating in a phase 1 clinical trial give you very little chance of benefiting by new treatment. But then, as you can see here, more recently in 2018, another letter was published and was done a similar analysis. The only difference was the period when this was done, 2014, 2015. And then, as you can see here, what emerged was that the response rate was actually going up to 20%. I think that's very important thing, because if you think that you want to do phase 1 trial early in the clinical path of this patient, then I think this is an important thing. And this is very important for the patient. And I think if you stop a little bit reflecting on what can be the reason why this benefiting rate of patient participating in phase 1 trial is increased, it's not only because we are doing better drug, it's also because we are doing better phase 1 clinical trial. We are selecting better the patient to go in this study. We're probably going a little bit early in a specific setting and so on and so on. So I will show you this. So this is the first important take-home message. And I think this is a good news also for us, all involved in developing new drug in the early setting. So this is another important slide, probably obvious for many of you, but this is the way we develop drug in the clinical setting. So traditionally you have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trial. And what you need to have very clear in mind is this endpoint here. So you can see that traditionally for a phase 1 trial, your endpoint is try to understand what the safety profile of the drug, what's the pharmacokinetics, and ultimately your endpoint is try to identify this recommended phase 2 dose that then allow you to do a phase 2 trial, where your aim at this point is to try to see if in a specific disease setting you have POC and POM. And what is POC? POC is simply evidence of activity of a new drug in a specific patient population, which is quite different from what we were used to do in phase 1 trial, where we're recruiting all-comer patient, all type of patient. And so POC is the evidence that the drug may work in that setting, and POM is essentially the same thing but applied to the pharmacodynamic of the drug, so whether the drug does what it's supposed to do, and this implies, for example, paired biopsy analysis of pharmacodynamic marker, modulation, etc., etc. So if you achieve POC and POM in phase 2, then that supports you to invest in a very big phase 3, where your aim is to achieve, to gain approval of the drug and to show that the new treatment is better than standard of care. Okay? So this is the traditional way we do clinical research and clinical drug development. But then, I want to just ask you to think about how we are doing now the study, the early study in AstraZeneca, for example. We more and more often within a phase 1 trial are also trying to identify a specific patient population. We are always also trying to essentially also declare POM, so have that evidence of activity. Essentially, if you think about what we are doing is kind of putting together phase 1 and 2 endpoint in one single study. So this is I think a very important change that is happening more and more often. So together together with the classical endpoint of a phase 1 clinical trial, we are more and more often including phase trial, these endpoints which are typical of phase 2 trial, okay? That's very important. And then, so this is what it was used to be a phase 1 trial, pure pharmacologic study. You were starting from a dose, the first dose in men here, dose 1, enrolling 3 to 6 patients. If tolerated, you were going to the next dose, and then the next dose, till you were reaching essentially the ceiling, which was dictated by toxicity, the dose-limiting toxicity, the severe toxicity. At that point, you knew that you could not go higher than that. That was your not tolerated dose. And your recommended phase 2 dose usually was just a little bit below that. And that allowed you to then declare recommended phase 2 dose. So this was phase 1 trial, straightforward study, 30-50 patients. But then I want to show you some of the most recent phase 1 trial. The first one I want to show you is this one. This is Keynote 001 study, the first in-man study of pembrolizumab. Dose escalation here, enrolled 1,235 patients at the end. It led to accelerated approval in 2 indications of pembrolizumab, which is a kind of an amazing achievement. You know, what I want you just to focus is, if you think about the endpoint achieved here, you have achieved endpoint, a classical endpoint of phase 1, 2, and 3 trial in one single study. And that's an important thing. Another amazing study, not because I work in AstraZeneca, is the phase 1 study development of Tagrisso. So again, you can see here the escalation, but then again, have a look here to the expansion cohort here. You know, the investigators were testing, you know, whether the drugs were working in a positive biomarker population, negative biomarker population with T79. Look at here, first line setting already at that stage. They were thinking already of flora later on and gaining data here. Biopsy to get POM to see whether, you know, the drug was doing what it was supposed to do. They were already checking tablet to see whether they could give the drug in a different way, and so on and so on. The drug recruited 200 patients, more than 200 patients. The study recruited more than 200 patients, and again accelerated approval. Again, all the endpoint, phase 1, 2, 3 trial in one single study. So what is happening then is, this is classical way of thinking of drug development. But then, you know, you agree with me that we are more and more often doing this type of study, phase 1, 2 study, and the expansion actually is the phase 2 study, where you try to generate that POC and POM data in that specific population. And I think very soon we will start talking about early study and late study, and not anymore phase 1, 2, 3 study. And I think what we want to achieve in the future is this seamless drug development, which I think the Keynote 001 study and the phase 1 study of Tagrisso are really the precursor of this type of drug development. And of course, you know, a drug development done this way has many implications and is changing, you know, a lot. Imagine how regulatory authorities have to react to this type of drug development, and they need to find a way. Actually, all the accelerated approval, breakthrough approval are all ways that, you know, regulatory authority have created to react to this changing landscape of drug development. Think about institution investigator that have to deal with phase 1 that are not anymore 30, 50 patients, 1,000 of patients. They need to adapt to this, and, you know, this has profound implication. I didn't even mention what is happening here for combination study and, you know, generating POC in platform, umbrella, and basket study, which Peter will discuss later on. But that's another amazing revolution is happening in the, you know, oncology drug development. And then I don't want to discuss about dose escalation, which is a topic that I'm, you know, studying deeply more recently. I think, you know, the fact that we are developing more safe drug has also to oblige us to change the way we do this dose escalation, which often takes so long, and in my opinion, for no medical reason. And so the conclusion, the good thing is, participating in a phase 1 clinical trial is now a good therapeutic option. And as a clinician working in a phase 1 clinical trial, having a conversation with a patient and say, yeah, the chance of benefiting in general are 20% and not anymore almost zero, it makes a difference. This means also more patients willing to participate in the study, investigators willing to have the patient participating in the study, and also having the possibility to move the phase 1 study in an early setting, which I think will make the difference. The way we conduct clinical research in oncology is changing, and then I think this word, seamless interaction, should also apply to the way we work together. And I think also what Annie was saying, or reverse translation, is kind of preluding to this seamless interaction between preclinical and clinical research. And so this is pretty much what I prepared.